There is no reason for men to date in their 20s. Are we sure about that? Listen, I get the sentiment, I really do. In your 20s is when you're trying to build valuable skills, not settle down. It's usually when you start to develop a sense of purpose and personal identity, and that takes a lot of time and effort to do. But the more I see this statement being thrown around online, the more that I question its benefits and realize the more uncommonly talked about drawbacks. To give you some context on where I'm coming from, I've been in 3 serious relationships so far, and the first was when I was 15. I was still in high school and I met a girl through a mutual friend who went to the same school as her. I didn't really have any clue what I was doing since I didn't have much experience or confidence with women in general at that point, but we got along pretty well. We both liked smoking green, shared the same friends, and we liked to go to underage drinking parties on the weekends, which were in abundance since she went to a private school. And you know those private school parents don't give a shit because they're too rich to care. I met plenty of people because of her, and it really forced me to step outside of my comfort zone and talk to more strangers on a daily basis. I felt myself slowly breaking out of that shell I had been in the first 14 years of my life, when all I'd do is play video games and hang with 5 people maximum. Nothing wrong with that, of course, but it definitely wasn't good for improving my social skills. It was also the first time I was required to comfort or take care of someone in a way. Not to like baby her, but to console her, support her, and do other relationship-related things for her. But possibly more important than that was the vulnerability aspect. When you get into a serious relationship with someone, it's the first time you are fully exposing yourself to another human being, both physically and mentally. I had never experienced that sort of vulnerability with anyone, especially myself, and because of that, I discovered things about myself that I wasn't previously able to access. It was the first time that I learned to be vulnerable without fearing the consequences, and my inner strength and self-awareness started to grow because of it. But like almost all first relationships, especially in your teens, things eventually faded away, and my many insecurities started to shine through. If you haven't noticed yet, I have a history of publicly embarrassing myself on the internet by telling stories about my past, so why not continue the trend here, right? This story is so outrageous. So it was about 3 years into our relationship now, and we had both gone off to different colleges. One weekend, we both decided to meet with each other in New York City and stay in an Airbnb together. And I was so down bad and depressed at this time because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was slowly starting to hate the college that I went to. We went out and had a few drinks, and when we got back, we somehow got into an argument, and I just broke down crying in front of her while screaming, "I hate my life," over and over. Can you guess what she did? She slapped me as hard as she could across the face, and she had basically no sympathy for me. That interaction taught me a whole lot about women and relationship dynamics. Of course, shortly after that, we broke up. She ended things over the phone, and my first ever breakup commenced. I was still at a school I hated, miserable, lost, and lonely for weeks. But in those dark moments, I found something. When I let myself grieve and feel what I lost, I built myself up again from scratch and came out a more refined version of myself. And I became someone who could bear just a little more of life's challenges. I had lost someone whom I at one point loved and embarrassed myself, but I gained a much better perspective on relationships in general. I found parts of myself that I was afraid to look at and face, and my tolerance for adversity increased. Over the next year, I took time off from considering a serious relationship and instead used that time to work on those insecurities and problems I had learned from my previous relationship. And the biggest thing that I learned was that women are not attracted to men who can't legally call themselves lords using the sponsor of today's video, Established Titles. Established Titles is a project based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds, or lords and ladies in English. When you get a title pack from their website, you get at least 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland, with an official certificate and all. Got mine right here, and it even has the exact plot number on it. Imagine if I walked up to my ex after I purchased a title pack and I said, "You know what? The name's Lord Cole Hastings now." The whole project is also using their efforts to preserve the picturesque beauty of Scotland, so they plant a tree with every order too. Established Titles told me that the first 200 people to purchase a title pack using my link will be effectively right next to my plot of land within walking distance. So maybe one day all of us lords and ladies can meet up in Scotland and create our own kingdom off-grid and call it based. Right now, they're running a big sale, and if you use my code CHastings10 at checkout, you get an additional 10% off. So if you're interested in owning or giving a plot of land in Scotland to someone and officially calling yourself a lord or lady, go to establishedtitles.com/CHastings10 or click the link in the description. So back to the story. With my newly built confidence and self-worth, I eventually found myself in another relationship 1 year later. This one had a much different, more serious feel to it. I felt like I had gained more self-control, and I wasn't so overly attached to her as I was in my previous relationship when I was disgusted with my life and myself. But because I was still just 20 years old when this relationship started, and I still had some lingering problems I hadn't attended to from my previous relationship, we had some issues. I thought I knew where the relationship was eventually going, and because of that, I got complacent. By the time I was 23, I had already graduated and was still living at home trying to find a job, and she was going to a nursing school while simultaneously working at a restaurant. By the end of our relationship, it was like I completely forgot everything I had learned in my previous relationship, and I not only stopped putting in so much effort because I was certain it would last, but also I started feeling like I needed her in my life, and I gave off that energy. And can you guess what happened? At the very start of the pandemic, I got dumped for a second time. This one absolutely crushed all my self-worth that I'd built up in that year that I took off from trying to look for a serious relationship. It was a new all-time low. But I think you can guess what happened because of that. I stopped kidding myself with YouTube and everything else I was trying to pursue. I looked myself dead in the eyes and I said, it's time to take this shit seriously. I don't think I would have gained half the amount of discipline, work ethic, and confidence in myself as I did had I not gone through that brutal first few months of the pandemic combined with a breakup. Once again, a relationship taught me a lot about myself and how to interact with someone that you love. And now we're at present day. After about 2 years of being single, I've now been in a relationship for around 5 months, and this is the longest I've gone in a relationship at the start with things going as smoothly as they are. Of course, I'm sure there will be rough patches down the road, but now I am much more well equipped to handle them. Do you see now why dating might be important in your developing years? I tried to list out the benefits as simply as I could. Now, one might argue that the real reason all of these relationships have seen improvements is because of the period of time outside of those relationships. I worked on myself outside of those relationships and not so much in them, and when I wasn't in a relationship was when I was really learning what I wanted to do and how to love myself. But there's two glaring problems that I see with this argument. The first is that I really don't think I would have had such transformative periods in my life and learned how to develop such a high self-worth had I not been heartbroken by those two women. Heartbreak can be the very thing that makes you or breaks you, and it's always been the former for me. I think it's very true in life that you cannot experience the highest of highs without the lowest of lows, and nothing got me as low as pouring my heart and soul into someone and having them destroy the glass that I poured it in. The second problem is that someone with that line of thinking is completely neglecting all the experience that I gained through that process. You can do as much self-improvement as you want, and you can think you've got the whole dating game figured out because you've watched a bunch of videos on what women like, but you will never truly understand what it means to be in a relationship, how to act, and what you even want and need from your partner unless you have actually been in a relationship. It's highly unlikely that the first relationship you ever get in is the only relationship you're gonna get in, especially if you're a teenager. There are, of course, exceptions, but that's just what they are, rare exceptions. You need to get that experience early so that you know what to do when you are really developed.
But Cole, why would I get in a relationship in my teens and 20s if I know it's almost definitely going to fail and I'm gonna get my heart broken?
Oh, wow, that's a great way of thinking. Maybe you'll go through your whole life pursuing nothing of value because it has the potential to fail. There is nothing in life worth pursuing that you can't fail at. The fact that you can get destroyed and fail is the very reason you should try to do it. Because almost nothing can be as good of a lesson as failure and heartbreak can. Lastly, since I'm talking about why you should try to date and get your heart broken in your 20s, I need to address this. Ever since I've been getting more attention for my relationship-related videos, and people in the comments talk about how they've endlessly tried to find someone but can't, a question has been lingering in my mind. What if you never find the one? What if, after working on yourself, shooting for hundreds of people that you're interested in, and consistently putting yourself out there, you find yourself old, regretful, and single? It is one of the most important questions to ask, because it's just simply not going to be the case that absolutely everyone is going to find someone they're going to be with forever. That's just the nature of the world, and I'd be lying if I said that every single person who watches my videos is going to find someone. Could you still go on living if that's a possibility? And how can you still go on living if that's a possibility? These are the most important questions to ask yourself before you even consider trying to get into a relationship, because it will greatly affect the energy that you give off to a woman. If your energy going into your interactions with a potential partner is, I need this to work because this is my life's mission, then they're gonna feel that desperateness on you and it's gonna turn them off. But beyond that reason, you need to consider this possibility and be okay with it for yourself. Someone who truly loves themselves would think, yeah, having someone to love romantically, to share the experience of life with, and have them be there for me would be awesome, but at the end of the day, I just want to focus on building a fulfilling life for me that doesn't rely on someone else massively contributing to that fulfillment. You need to get to that point. And it's different from being completely passive about it, because especially if you're a man, you have to be the one to put in effort to make those first dates happen. A lot of people like to say, oh, I just know the right person will magically fall into my lap at the right time. But I feel like if most guys did that, most guys would end up single. Yes, you usually have to put in effort to find someone you click with, but you have to be okay with whatever the final outcome of that may be. You can never fully control how another person feels about you. You can only control how you choose to react to something that happens to you and how you feel about yourself. And of course, you don't have to get into a relationship to see all the benefits that I saw from getting my heart broken. It's very possible to have these realizations and growth that I had without the influence of getting dumped. At the end of the day, I'm not telling you to chase women and neglect yourself. I'm saying you should at the very least try and put in effort towards finding a romantic partner so you can learn and grow from the experiences and realizations you'll have with that person. But simultaneously, find fulfillment within yourself and your own life and what you can control, so that if something long-term never ends up happening, you can look back at the end of your life and say, at least I tried and was unregretful through it all. I'll leave you with this quote by the psychologist Carl Jung. Never do human beings speculate more or have more opinions than about things which they do not understand. On every video I've made related to dating and relationships, the comment rate has been abnormally high. Because the truth is, no one has relationships and the current dating world fully figured out. The only way you can truly get closer to knowing and understanding isn't by watching another dating video and leaving yourself more confused and paralyzed than you were, but to go and try it out yourself. Thank you very much to all the patrons on this channel on Patreon. If you don't know what this is, it's a platform separate from YouTube where I'm putting out exclusive content. You can talk to me one-on-one over the phone on there. If you want to check that out, link in the description. If you are interested in improving your social skills so you can improve the chances of you finding a partner, then check out this whole playlist where I go over building relationships with others. Tons of valuable information in there. Now I'm heading out. I'm out of breath. I love you guys. Peace. I don't know what I'm doing.